anything you want, my is love, 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 love. You can get more than anything you want, my is love. You can get more than anything you want, my is love, 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 love.
Hey, we have new cards. Those of you who've been here before, you know I call them the jar cards because they're in a jar. But Jessica has some, but I have some too. And what we did was this year, our second year here at Winston, and our 7th year of Spiritual Soul Center. And so every Sunday I read one of these cards and I read what you want this place to be and what you've discovered here and what you're hoping this place is. And so if you haven't filled out one of these cards, see Jessica. She has the cards. See her wandering around. And they'll be sitting right here with some pens. Don't take it home because I know what happens when you take these home. Don't try to convince me. There is a pretty strong chance you will not bring them back. So take a minute here, if you don't mind, and fill out one of these cards. Your name is optional. And so, ta-da-da. Now last week, I pulled a card out of here. I always pull it randomly. But last week I pulled a card, and the person whose name actually was on the card wasn't here. And I said to you, right, I said, you know, I'm going to put this card on top and pick it next week because I really want this person, since I did draw it, I really want this person to read the card. So I'm going to see if it's still on top. If it's not, I'll just use the card on top. But let me see. Ta-da! It is. Still on top, which means none of you filled out a jar card last week.
Busted.
Just saying. So hey Dawn, it's your card. So come on here. Dawn wasn't here last week, but Dawn is our newly elected Soul Center board president. So, and I pulled this honestly last week. I just put it on top this week. So I knew you'd be here.
I did a presentation last week. Didn't just skip church.
It was not an accusation.
No, I didn't.
All right.
All right. Why Spiritual Soul Center? I've been searching for a spiritual community on my journey to self-discovery, and I found the place that welcomed me with open arms. The message speaks to me and moves me every week. What have you discovered here, or what are you hoping to find? I have discovered my new community, new friends, and a deeper spirituality, which has helped me on my journey to find me. How does it feel here, or how are you hoping it will feel? It feels welcoming, warm, compassionate, accepting, and loving. How will you enrich this space in our community? I will support this community in any way I can to ensure anyone who walks through the doors feels loved and acceptance always.
I have a special prayer request as we go into transition into our opening prayer. Many of you know Beverly Perry. She's been a fixture at Spiritual Soul Center since the beginning, and we are 6 years old. I've probably known her 10 years before that at Unity. Beverly has been in the Behavioral Health Hospital at New Hanover Regional, which I still call at Novant, for almost 2 months now. Because it is in the Oaks, the Behavioral Health Hospital, she is unable to receive any visitors other than her family or her minister. So that gives me the great honor and privilege of being able to be with her. And yesterday I went to see her. There's very limited times. You know, from 10 to 11 in the morning and 5:30 to 6:30 in the evening, that's it. So I went to see her yesterday, and it was the first time when she sent the nurse out and said she didn't want to see me. So, of course, I was heartbroken, not because she didn't want to see me, but because she felt the way she was feeling and not wanting to have anyone to converse with. So, I am calling on you to remember Beverly this week with your highest energy. In our coffee and conversation group yesterday, Sandy said, why don't we all just every day take a sticky note, put Beverly's name on it, and stick it where we're going to see it. And every time we see it, to remember Beverly and to send her the highest energy and love that we can. So I'm throwing that same suggestion out to you. Thank you, Sandy. and for us to keep her in mind, because it's easy to forget someone who is for all intents and purposes locked away and separated from all those she loves and not wanting to have that connection. So that's what we're going to pray this morning. I invite you to do that this coming week. But let's breathe for a moment in and out. And with this soul in your mind, with this person, and really with anyone who is experiencing mental illness, who is feeling disconnected, who is feeling as if life isn't really worth living, who is confused, who is just twisted up in whatever way it is, to know that we can send with our open heart. We can see them not as that person, but as the soul and the love that they are at this very moment, regardless of their experience, that we can see something that they cannot see in themselves. That we can see wholeness, we can see the divine itself living and breathing them, we can see healing and wholeness. That's our gift to those who are suffering in that way, is to see them as God knows them to be. Whole, perfect love. And so for this practice, for these souls, everyone, we are grateful that we can offer this great gift. And so it is. Amen. Summertime, and I have another story for you. I told a story for you a while back from a children's book called The Three Questions. You remember that? Yeah. So I have another children's story for you called The Dot. This is probably my favorite children's story that I've read as an adult. And I ran across this book in a museum store. I don't remember. Renee and I were somewhere, maybe Charleston or Savannah. She probably knows the exact place. And I saw this book and I was like, I had to have it. I had to have it. I read it and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to have this book. And it's not my normal reading book. Don't be scared first time or say, oh my gosh, it's children's books. But I do have a few others on my side of my shelf. But I used this book at the Celebration of Life service for a friend of mine, Kate Held. And Kate was an art teacher. And I thought that, oh, and I forgot my dot. Oh, okay. Darn it, Renee, I forgot my dot. That's all right. And I use this at her Celebration of Life service because it is such a great story about a teacher. So I want to share that with you today. I want to read this book by Peter H. Reynolds called The Dot. All right, we'll start here. So, Art class was over, but Vashti sat glued to her chair. Her paper was empty. Right? Vashti's teacher leaned over the blank paper and said, "Ah, a polar bear in a snowstorm," he said. "Very funny," said Vashti. "I just can't draw." I love the teacher's hair. Those of you can see it. Her teacher smiled and said, "Just make a mark and see where it takes you." So Vashti grabbed a marker and gave the paper a good strong jab. There. The teacher picked up the paper, studied it carefully, and then she pushed the paper toward Vashti and quietly said, "Now sign it." Vashti thought for a moment. "Well, maybe I can't draw, but I can sign my name." And so that's exactly what she did. The next week, when Vashti walked into art class, she was surprised to see what was hanging above her teacher's desk. It was the little dot she had drawn, her dot, all framed in swirly gold. Yeah. "Humph," she said. "I can make a dot better than that." And so she opened her never-before-used set of watercolors and set to work. Vashti painted and painted. A red dot, a purple dot, a yellow dot, a blue dot. The blue mixed with the yellow, and she discovered that she could make a green dot. Vashti kept experimenting. Lots of little dots in many colors. Then she said, "If I can make little dots, I can make big dots too." And Vashti splashed her colors with a bigger brush on bigger paper to make bigger dots. Vashti even made a dot by not painting a dot. Right? She's on a roll now. At the school art show a few weeks later, Vashti's many dots made quite a splash. All over the place, right? Vashti noticed a little boy gazing up at her. "You're really a great artist. I wish I could draw," he said. "I bet you can," Vashti said. "Me? Oh, no, not me. I can't draw a straight line with a ruler." Vashti smiled, and she handed the boy a blank sheet of paper and said, "Show me." The boy's pencil shook as he drew his line. Vashti stared at the boy's squiggle, and then she said, "Please sign it." I love this book. Did I mention that? I love this book, and as a children's book, it's pretty obvious what the lessons are, right? You know, there's this encouragement that happens from a teacher. There's this small thing that, when it's viewed in a different way, becomes a passion and something just amazing, right? And then that encouragement is passed on. Right? That's the children's story here that we want to convey to a child is, no matter what it is, even the size of a dot, right? It can become something when it's done with passion like that. Wow, wow. That's the children's story. But these children's stories are always much more deeper as read as an adult. To me it is. And one of the first things I noticed about this story as I started to get into it a little further is the teacher does not even have a name. Did you notice that? The teacher doesn't even have a name. Like, this story doesn't happen without the teacher, and the teacher doesn't have a name. Like, it doesn't go anywhere. It all starts because the teacher what? The teacher noticed, engaged her, gave her a piece of paper, didn't tell her how to do it or what to do, simply said, make a mark, sign your name. And then what did the teacher do? Celebrated that, right? Celebrated that by putting it in the frame. Now, I have a dot that I have. It's been hanging in my office that I forgot to bring. It's a dot. It's a red dot. Signed in by me, Paula. It isn't a gold swirly frame, but it is a silver frame. Is the best I could do at that point in time when I was buying it. No. And it doesn't start without the teacher. The whole story doesn't start without the teacher and no name. That's one of the first things I've noticed. And then something happened to Vashti when she saw the dot in the frame. Something in her changed, right? Something in her. She saw that dot in a way she hadn't seen the dot before when she poked it on the paper. And she said what? I can. I can. Seeing it from a different perspective, she said, I can make a better dot than that. I can make a better dot than that. I can make a bigger dot than that. You see, that the whole way that the teacher was able to present this dot and Vashti was able to see it opened up a possibility in her that she didn't see before and she didn't notice, right? I mean, this is how important the teacher is. I'm thinking, maybe she should have had a name. But she didn't in this story. So with no evidence and this possibility rose up in her, and she painted and she painted and she did this and she did that, and she had this big show in the art show, all these things. Well, I think this story is more than just that story as well. I think the story is a parable. Jesus used parables to teach because he used ordinary things to open people's eyes up to the divine, to God, to the possibility, to what he called Father, right? By whatever name you call that. He didn't say, this is the rule you follow. He said, let me tell you a story about the kingdom of heaven. Let me tell you a story about what God is, right? And I think this is that story. I think this is that exact story. I think that this is exactly what happens when we are born with a certain unique gift, with a certain unique outlook, with our, as it were, dot. And what God does when that happens is puts it in a swirly gold frame and says, see, this is what it looks like. This is what it looks like. This is what it looks like. This teacher, this behind-the-scenes person that is unnamed, right? We call God that sometimes, like the unnamed power in the universe, love, this thing that we can't know. But it's there all along, right? It's there all along, putting our dot in the frame if we pause long enough to look at it. I'm getting real juicy about this story because it does feel like a parable. It does. And what the motivation is for us is when we take the moment, God doesn't say, the divine doesn't say, the universal spirit doesn't say, let me tell you what to do. It's simply pushing the paper toward us and saying, sign it. Own this gift, whatever it is. As small as it might look, as tiny as it might be. The size of a dot that it might be. Sign it and own it. And then I want you to see it in this frame because I want you to see it as I see it. I want you to see it as God sees it. The gift that you are. Too often we're like, well, I'm only this, or I can just this. And God's saying, no, the spirit, the energy, the pulse of life is saying, it looks like this. It's in a gold swirly frame. Y'all should be smiling back at me. Y'all looking like I'm crazy. And when we see it, this idea that we have, this opening that Vashti had, this idea that she could make a bigger dot, that she could make more dots. It reminded me of a quote from Mark Nepo, and it says this: ideas are retrieved, they are not created. Ideas are retrieved. We don't make it up. We retrieve what already is, what already is, you see. And that is the idea that I have in this story about seeing it in the gold frame. To help us retrieve the idea that it is magnificent the way it looks now. And I'm talking about your life and I'm talking about my life. Right now. Not when and if, not someday, not the dot's too small, not it doesn't have enough color, but now. But now. And the whole time, the divine is like this teacher. Because guess what? Vashti didn't go out and buy all the supplies. She didn't get the canvas, all the colors. She didn't get the place to work. She didn't hang her stuff on the walls. That happened by the teacher, right? Vashti's a little girl. And again, the parable of that is the support. That is the foundation that we have in the divine of ourselves. Right there. I love it. I love it. We overlook it. But there it is, right there. Always behind the scenes. Never alone. We are never alone. And our only work really is to see our gift as God sees our gift. As the divine sees it. To feel as the divine feels. To know as the divine knows. About exactly what that is for us. Oh, I mean, that's powerful. And that this yes you can and yes I can. Like when you get that sense of I can, that yes you can, that's the divine in my way of thinking. Because that's something inside of you. If we're lucky enough, we have a flesh and blood teacher like Holly saying yes you can. But the master teacher, the powerful love, the universal this is always there. Trying to get us to just move a little bit. I wish I had my frame. You can imagine this frame. It's about this big with a red dot in it. Saying, look, look, look. This is how I celebrate you. If you are alive, you are being celebrated. If you are alive, you are being celebrated. That's the way I feel about it. And always pushing that sheet of paper, that blank dot, that blank piece of paper. Like, here it is. I remember this. All right? Here it is. It's just like this. Sign it. Own it. Right? Big dot. Paula. That's it. Where's my frame? Yeah. Celebrate it. I think that's what the divine does. I think that's what the divine does. So, the only question that remains is, what is your dot? What is your dot? Could you see it in a gold swirly frame? That's the way God sees it. That's my belief. Maybe you don't believe that, which is fine too. But I'm submitting to you that that's the way God sees you. That's the way God sees the gift that you are. That's the way God sees the potential that you have. The potential is small as a dot on a piece of paper. To celebrate that. So what is your dot? And here's the thing. You have a unique dot. No one else in the world has your dot. Well, the proof, it's like no one else has your DNA. Pieces of it, right? Of your mother, your father, your blood relatives, all that. But no one has what you have. No one can offer what you can offer. No one. You are unique. You've lived a life up to now. You've had an experience up to now that no one else has had. So what's your dot today? You have to go back and say, I wish I would have had my dot when I was Vashti's age. Well, that's another therapy session. But what's your dot today? What's the dot? If you look inside yourself and you listen to yes I can, what is the yes I can about? What is the dot? Can you see as God sees you? Can you begin? Can you even look in the mirror into your own eyes and see yourself there? How many really do that and really accept ourselves? When I brush my teeth, I'm always like this. And I started with an electric toothbrush, and now the toothpaste runs all down over my hand. So I'm learning to hold it like this, and look up. And look up, and I'm getting some glances in the mirror of me and going, Because it takes practice. I don't see the gold swirly frame around me. I don't see it around my dot. There were people yesterday who came to the Coffee and Conversation class, Coffee and Conversation we have on Saturday mornings, and some of you are so appreciative all the time. We go around at the end and people have a final comment, so appreciative. And I realize that there are often times when I don't take that into me. I don't feel it because I'm thinking it's not mine to feel. Like I feel like if I feel that, what will happen if I feel that? And I'm afraid of that. I'm afraid of my dot in the frame. It's not an ego thing. it's just accepting that. Oh my gosh, it's incredible. So what are you not accepting about yourself? And what is your dot? That's the thing today. Last week it was strawberry. This week it's dot. It's dot. Some simple summer ideas for you. The dot. So let's take a moment to go into meditation. And maybe, just maybe, consider, just open up a channel to notice the blank paper being put before me. And what would it look like if I was to make my mark? Whatever that mark is. And what if I could see that whatever it is, however big or small, however it looks, brightly colored or the color of mud, that the divine that created you and me, that decided that we were worthy of being here now for a particular and unique reason. And could we see the divine dancing as it put a swirly gold frame around our personal dot? Let's just spend a few moments. In the quiet. And I'll close out our time together with this reading from Meister Eckhart. It is your destiny to see as God sees, to know as God knows, to feel as God feels. How is this possible? How? Because divine love cannot defy its very self. Every object, every creature, every man, woman, and child has a soul, and it is the destiny of all to see as God sees, to know as God knows, to feel as God feels, to be as God is. Amen.